What's up? I'm back. 11 months later, I am back for what I said was going to be a weekly podcast. But I have been filled with new vim and vigour, and I will be doing this podcast every week, okay? You better believe it. Obviously, when I've decided to come back 11 months later, I have some things that I would like to say. I was inspired to make this podcast, to return to the podcast, mainly by 3 TikTok videos I saw last night, which I will expand upon later. I also made a really depressing TikTok last night myself, which made me realize how much I need to be talking more and talking things out to myself, to a camera, to you lovely people. And that I need to start the podcast again. I'm not suited to short form content. I trail off too much. I don't really have the ability to be funny in short form. I don't know if I have the ability to be funny in long form either. I'll let you be the judge of that. But this definitely suits me better. I wouldn't say I'm a yapper, but I'm a thinker, so I'm much better at expanding on a point long form. And you're much more likely to find nuggets of wisdom in there than in any short videos. So let's get on to what made me want to do this again. I've been thinking about my online presence and how to maintain it for a good year now. I'm a musical artist, and it's hard to... I don't want to be the person, oh my god, it's so hard to be a musician online. My previous podcast was about that, about how I hate people bitching about that. So I'm not going to do that, okay? I want to talk about kind of my perspective around it and how it's changed, how I'm changing my presence online. So, being a musician and being an artist, I've always tried to appear kind of super aloof online. And the reason for that is I have always wanted to be someone else, I think I'm realizing. And I think to the detriment of my musical potential, because the only musicians who are good musicians are the ones that are themselves. But I never thought that I never thought really that I was interesting enough or cool enough to become a musician, to become an artist that people follow. I am not really mysterious. I'm interesting in that, like, I've read half a Chomsky book. It's not even a book he wrote, it's a collection of his interviews. I'm interesting in many ways, but I didn't see myself as the same scale of interesting, I guess, in terms of people who've lived interesting lives, My life is pretty normal. It's great. I'm very lucky for it. But I think I always wanted to be somebody else. And I kind of thought music was a gateway to that. And because of that, I thought I had to pretend to be somebody else in my musical presence. And I've had maybe some revelations about that, which is sparking this video and this change towards how I'm going to be presenting myself online. Part of the reason for why I wanted to appear this way, I think, is because I've always been a bit of a Philistine. I always thought things were better in the past, and that helped me in terms of who I chose to idolize. And the people I chose to idolize were definitely different from maybe my peers, like when other people might have been looking to more current stars for inspiration. The people whose interviews I enjoyed watching were like 60s film stars, singers, musicians, probably like 60s till 80s, maybe including the 90s. People were interesting on chat shows. Now, I love the Graham Norton show. People are still really charismatic, but in a different way. And also intellectuals like James Baldwin and Maya Angelou, authors, people who they were so mysterious. They never gave away too much. They never really spoke unless spoken to, these people, and they never voiced their opinion on something until asked about it by a person sitting across the couch from them, So it never felt like they were giving away too much because somebody was asking them about it. Whereas now, in our modern world, people offer themselves, their personalities, their opinions, before they're asked about it. Which, I think I spent a lot of time thinking that was bad. And that, I guess, putting yourself, your personality, rather than work you want to share on the internet was sort of inherently attention-seeking, self-serving. In both cases, it probably is, but also, I think, like, the reason these people didn't do this on the internet is because they didn't have the internet, they didn't have this tool. I think James Baldwin would have been writing poetry on Tumblr for sure. I don't know about Maya. I was judging myself by past standards, I think. The image I was trying to project across was something that was maybe normal for that time. But it's hard to... You can't really be that person when you don't live in that person's time. And again, those people would have used that term, that tool, this tool, the tool of social media, of promoting yourself rather than waiting to be promoted or be asked about something. The 3 TikToks that I watched that spurred me to go back to the podcast. The first one, they're all quite sad, okay? Trigger warning, potentially. The first one was a lovely young man in the States, and he was really short TikTok. He just was kind of filming himself talking into his mirror. I believe his name is Jeremy, and he was kind of crying, and he was saying, all of my family has passed away. I'm the last person in my family, and I'm just putting this out there to let people know that I'm there and have there be a record of me that I existed. I've really lowered the mood already, even with the first TikTok. The second TikTok was a girl talking about how she'd lost her mother lately, how she was coping with it, and how it had pushed her into a sober journey. So she was going sober for the first time, I believe. And the third TikTok was a girl who I came across on TikTok, but I actually already watched her on YouTube. Ash Callahan, her name is. She does funny little reaction videos to kind of trends and overconsumption and that sort of thing. But she put up a video, a really short one, about the caption on it was something like, "My dad took the day off work with me to spend my birthday with me because I have no friends." And now I'm sure she was exaggerating. I'm sure she does have friends, but maybe they just weren't around at the time. So it was just her and her dad having a nice day out of the park. And what those 3 videos had in common is all 3 of them were people being really genuinely vulnerable about stuff that is not cool to talk about. It's not cool to say that, you had to spend your birthday with your family because you didn't have friends around. And that affected me because that's happened to me a lot. I've spent a lot of birthdays on my own or with my family, and I'm very lucky to have that. And each one of them touched me is the wrong word. Each one of them actually gave me a relief, I think. And I realized what I'd been doing wrong in terms of my presentation on social media and why it was draining me so much. I have been trying to come off as happy all the time, as someone with a really interesting life, someone really suave and cool and always knows the right thing to say and funny and everything, and mysterious like these people I mentioned. I'm not really any of those things. Like, it was not me at all, and I am not happy all the time. I'm not happy a lot of the time, that's just to do with my own kind of chemical makeup. And I realized that the relief that these people's videos had given me, them being honest about their lives and about their pain, and this pain that we're all feeling, but we can't that we're kind of carrying around, but not speaking about, at least publicly or to each other, that I needed to follow their example, and that I needed to actually be myself online. And just in my presentation of myself as a musician, singer, artist, anyway. I suppose I've been on a kind of a journey over the last year or so of while trying to be successful as a musician and find success as an independent artist, to also learn to like being myself and to appreciate myself, because it doesn't actually really work otherwise, and it's not interesting to people being somebody else, trying to be somebody else. So in honor of that, I've decided to start sharing all the most embarrassing things about myself online and about my life, and just to be put forward who I am and the life I have, rather than the ones I see other artists having online and that I think I should be having and presenting. So this is my rap sheet of embarrassing things. I've never had a lot of friends. I've never been a person who's had a lot of friends. The friends that I do have are amazing, but I've never been one of those people who had an abundance of people to, go on holidays with, or that sounds like the biggest first world problem ever. An abundance of people to. I've never been one of those people who had a huge selection of friends to choose from. Like, there's a trend going on TikTok at the moment of the girlies dancing to Sorry by Justin Bieber, which I've always loved that video. Oh my God. I used to find it so hypnotic. And there's like 8 gorgeous girlies all like dancing, and they're doing these cuts that, one of them's in front of the camera, the rest of them are in the back going, and then it cuts and another person is in front of the camera and the rest of them are in the back going, And I'm like, how do you have 8 beautiful girlies, like 8 friends at all to appear in this video, but like who all know each other? I definitely have 8 friends, but all very different groups, like not one group that all know each other. Now, they probably are all professional dancers, and that's how. But I couldn't believe that some people have this selection of friends. Now, like I said, the friends I do have are fantastic. I love them. But unfortunately, I don't have many around me at the moment or in my vicinity. It's the Irish question where everyone's emigrated, everyone's living somewhere else. So I do not have people in my close vicinity to talk to, which is part of why I'm making this. So I have someone to talk to, you. And also, so my friends, so I can update them all at once. They can check in on me, because I know the last podcast I made, my first and my last for 11 months, a lot of them did watch, and they were like, oh, that's what Lucy's been thinking about lately. So this is my rap sheet of embarrassing things. I've never had a lot of friends. I've never been a person with a huge friend group. I have, I suppose, a lot of friends across different theatres, but they don't really know each other. It's all kind of individual friendships. I've 0 close friends near me. Number 3, I work part-time, but I can't pull myself together enough to make more music. I made an album last year, and I have not written one useful song since then. So I released an album last year, but I haven't written one useful song since then. So those are some of the most embarrassing things in my life that I feel embarrassment about, and that I would not have ever wanted to include in my musical persona. But it's me, and it's part of who I am. So I think if I'm going to spend any sort of time putting myself out there, it has to be me, it has to be myself. The last kind of thing I want to talk about is kind of linked to this, and basically I've also been on a journey of over the last 6 months of, I don't want to say self-improvement, but of a kind of a growing my happiness journey, I guess. I've done things like mindfulness, other sort of practices, and trying to, as I say, integrate practices into my life that will make me happier. And it's been great, but I realized that I feel I've been sort of denying myself. So I am kind of a fundamentally melancholy person. I am drawn to the melancholy in things in life. And I think I let that go for a while in this pursuit of happiness. Never seen the film. Like, I used to look at a slideshow of poetry on TikTok or something, and my heart would feel so full. I would feel so deeply, whether it was happiness or sadness or wistfulness or missing someone or nostalgia. And since I had this new identity of someone who's not sad, I wasn't feeling as deeply at all, which for an artist, you have to, especially if you want to write. And I think I'd grown to see that sort of feeling as wallowing. But again, wallowing kind of has to happen if you're going to make anything. You have to wallow in your feelings and you have to feel them. And feeling bad is such a privilege because it's a feeling, it's a privilege to feel that deeply, I think, whether it's good or bad. So I realized that in denying myself this wallowing, this sadness, this joy and sadness, I was denying myself. I was denying who I am. I've been grappling with identity, I guess, and how to see yourself as a sad person, or I don't want to really get into mentally ill person, but if you're somebody who, I can only speak for myself, but if you're somebody who lives in that knowledge and that image, sometimes you can get stuck in it and you can think, oh, I can't do things because I'm this, whereas other people see much more potential in you. I didn't want to be stuck in that image. I didn't want to think of myself that way anymore. But I think in that process, I couldn't think of any other way to think of myself. So I lost myself for a little while. So what I'm trying to say is I'm going back to being sad. I'm going back to being me. And am I still working on my happiness growing methods? Yes, 100%. Am I still trying to feel better day to day, to do practices like gratitude, like mindfulness that are going to make me feel better? Yes. But I'm not denying who I am anymore. That I'm a person who feels deeply, who sits in the melancholy, sometimes who's struck by the melancholy of certain things of life, and who loves very, very hard, which is a lot of where the melancholy comes from. So, hi, I'm Sarah Bella. I hope you enjoyed this video. Listen to my music if you're interested, and I'll be posting another episode next week.